That's just something like your name and your life.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Talking with Spanish People. I come to you this morning in a celebratory mood and a very optimistic mood. Because of a couple things. One, yesterday, with a little bit of help from Spacey, Kimberly and I really first time in our entire relationship. The negotiation was this. About yesterday, it was like, okay, look, I won't require you to be accountable about anything that's happened prior to this moment for the day, and you don't attack me at all during the day. If you don't attack me, I won't bust your ass about anything. And you don't bust if I don't bust your ass about anything, you don't attack me. And so we agreed to that, and it worked out. Worked out beautifully. We had a great day. Now this morning, I don't know why, but I woke up like mad or something. But also like not so much mad, but like I guess an urgency of see, I told you so. So I hopped up and I said, so what we learned yesterday, in kind of an angry voice, what we learned yesterday was that negotiation works. Well, Kimberly wasn't really having that angry voice shit. And we burst into a quick and abrupt fight. But this time, I said to her, now look, I'm looking for two things from you. I want you to agree that negotiation worked yesterday. She was willing to agree with that. And then there was one more thing I needed from her. I want you to agree that the reason we've been having these problems is because I've not been afforded a legitimate way to negotiate with you heretofore. And at a certain point, she agreed, and then she started talking about how important it was that I not be angry. But by the time she agreed, I calmed down, immediately, because that's all I ever want. And we totally talked it out successfully, and she did it my way, which is, of course, not my way, right? It's like I get some legitimate channel of diplomacy. That seemed to get through to her. And the other thing that seemed to get through to her was I used a word that may have been Horst Mumbler had used before, which is I want her to sacrifice. That seems to make more sense to her than anything else I'm asking of her. And I hadn't really used that word prior. Say, okay, so I'm looking for you to sacrifice for me, just as I sacrificed for you. And there was a perfect example shortly thereafter where she's like, you look like a slob. I was going to work. I don't give a fuck about a slob. These clients and I, they're not.
Is
they
she
already.
Over there with her mother in the place.
She's with a client right now.
She's what?
With a client, she's working.
Oh.
So
okay,
Mom. Mom, listen. We will. You just got here. We're gonna be here for a while, so settle in, okay? And then when it's time to go to David later, we will. But Kimberly's gonna take you to get your nails done.
Who is?
Kimberly, my mom, remember?
Oh, that's wonderful.
You love my mom, right?
Thank you.
Well, yeah. She's actually my wife, but that's fine. Oh, she's actually not my wife.
I'll send you something.
Oh, great. Thank you. So anyway, what I've gleaned from this is what I always thought, and I my fingers are crossed that this sticks and continues to grow as I expect it will in very short order, which is Kimberly needed to experience the success of trying it my way. And yesterday gave her the opportunity to do so. Because under Spacey's impatient gaze, hi Supernova, we did manage to negotiate an agreement that was consensual on both sides about how we were going to behave going forward.
I don't want to make this so messy.
And now she got to experience it working, and so today she was willing to give it a try again. Hi, Chris.
See me take a horse my finger.
Okay, there's some soda right there, Mom. Mom's in a chatty mood today, I guess.
I have to have kind of them push me sometimes.
All right, well, thank you, Mom. So, hi, Sheila. So the point of this is a number of different things. I mean, I'm quite confident that this actually does represent the breakthrough that I've been anticipating and requiring and freaking out about for a long ass time. Because, I mean, the thing that I keep saying, people probably don't take it literally at face value, but I mean this literally when I say yesterday was the first time she and I have ever successfully negotiated anything. It's been an ongoing source of resentment, frustration, anger, whatever in me, because I need to be able to negotiate with people. I need to know that there's going to be a good faith effort to engage in mutual dialectic. And if I can get that, then everything's golden. If I can't get that, then everything's shit. And that's kind of it. But the thing is, the other thing I take away from this is people can overcome their damage. It is possible to do that. And it is okay and correct for good people with secure attachment styles to say, we have to do this the fair, decent, loving, healthy way. And it is the case that sometimes one person's way is correct. But of course, only if that one person's way is mutual. It's genuinely about reciprocity. And so if I had been talking to her about how, she needs to agree with me all the time because she's not thinking right. She needs to leave all the thinking to me or something like that. Then of course she'd be right to resist that. And I think the problem here for is she keeps mistaking what I'm actually saying for that because people have probably told her that before, Anyway, it was a lot more emotional, I think, than people will initially imagine it having been. But I really have been trying to get to this spot for a long ass time, and to finally get here this morning when I was driving to go to work and pick up my mom, it was very emotional. I felt such a great sense of satisfaction. Of course, some of that is a great desire to say "I told you so" to a number of different people. But it probably is slightly premature to tell people I told you so, except insofar as it is possible. It is possible. Mom's not really interested in providing a clean audio space. So there may be a little bit of background chatter at just life in the current era for me, I guess.
Can you call him?
No, Mom, we're not going home to Dad. They're not taking you back to Dad until hours from now. You still have to get your nails done. Have you gotten your nails done yet?
No.
No, so we're not going home yet.
Mine, but that isn't.
So that's after Kimmy's done with her client.
I don't have my card.
Okay, Mom, don't worry about that. We'll pay for the nails. Don't worry about that. Okay, so it is.
Oh, we were watching.
It is significant to me in a lot of different ways because obviously it's been at a certain point starting to take over the narrative of the channel where I'm just continually battling Kimberly talking. Mom, shh. Well, I'm talking.
Okay.
It's really difficult for people to hear if two people are talking concurrently. My mom she's also not necessarily the best friend of a live stream, right? Especially when I'm feeling very I have a topic I want to talk about. And the core message of it is faith in things or people will work, provided the things or people are legitimately good. So the thing is, one thing I always knew about Kimberly is she had character, she's a person who's honorable and who has limits that she adheres to. And I also knew that the approach I wanted to take was honorable. In other words, I wasn't trying to force something on her that was unreasonable to expect, that was impossible for her, that was unfair, that was harmful in any way, that would reduce her agency or disempower her. I knew I was asking her to engage in the only way that anybody ever attains real growth, or maybe not only way. The way that people usually attain real growth. How do people usually attain growth? They have to sacrifice some of their pride to attain growth. And so that's what that's what I've had to do a lot in this relationship. I have sacrificed basically all of my pride in this relationship in a lot of different ways. Like whatever my insecurity was, it has been subject to direct attack by Kimberly in ways that made me just sort of go, ugh. But it made you realize, well, that's what things are actually important. Because there are things that would have caused me to break up with Kimberly for sure. If I thought she were doing things that were,
I was sleeping.
Dishonest, malicious, in ways that indicated a lack of character, then I would have left her. But she never really did that. So I kept battling on. I kept thinking there's just this one thing that we need to solve. And she kept, we kept having fights that whereby there was something that's presumably the subject of the fight. And then immediately the fight becomes about whether or not it's okay to talk about things that are potentially subjects of fights and how we're going to talk about them. And, because she'd go into negationary mode. Hi, Jeebus. And now that Jeebus is here, we can all take a deep breath. And when you exhale, you say, Jeebus. Like that. Okay.
It's not as bad as you think.
All relationships help to round out our sharp edges. That's very true, Sheila, and that's what's happened here in this relationship in both directions. She has rounded out all my sharp edges. The only edges that remain are the ones that are legitimately part of me. No, I'm not mad about that shit anymore. I realize it's stupid. I'm not mad about this shit anymore. I realize it's stupid. I'm not mad about the other.
I learned not to.
But there are some things that I genuinely am mad about, and those things I need to respect those as well. And that's the other thing. It's like there are limits. We do have personal boundaries. I was introduced to this term in a kind of a hilarious way by the whole Becky incident, who claimed personal boundaries as sort of like a universal get out of jail free card. But there are things that are just personal boundaries, and I have a couple of them, and I've discovered them. And one of them is I need to know that the person I'm dealing with is an ally, or at least not an enemy. And the way I know that is willingness to engage in dialectic. Dialectic being when two people communicate with one another under an assumption of good faith bargaining. That is to say that both parties want a mutually satisfactory outcome and are willing to both sacrifice and be objective about their own lesser interests in the interest of the larger outcome, provided the benefits to both are greater than the sacrifices made by either, right? Well, Jeebus, that's a very, very acceptable personal boundary. Jeebus informs us that one of his personal boundaries is his crotch area. That's fair. So I won't, that means now I know not to set up my tent on Jeebus's crotch.
I was just trying to find it.
So, Chris, what I'm interested in is to hear a little bit about the
I
emotional
know that.
process of
Way
that,
before
because
when I was a little kid.
I've gone through some emotional processing regarding my mom. Kimberly kind of walked me through it about
And I don't do that now because
accepting that she's already gone, kind of. So I wouldn't doubt that you kind of had that process as well before
and then
your dad
she
passed.
went
So
out
then how does
one
that
time,
emotional process play out
but
once
then
he's
she
actually
was in
gone?
Arizona.
I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about that.
Did you do that?
Because I've got that coming up,
They take you out.
So how is what I described a boundary?
Arizona.
Well, what I'm saying is a boundary is
She died that
is
night.
that I need,
And
yeah,
she
I
would've
can't-
been through the others.
even if I can't justify it. Like what I'm saying is even if
Wow.
if
Because
I
I've known
don't,
her all my life.
even if it doesn't
And
pass
suddenly she was
external
there.
scrutiny,
She was
but
tall and blonde and
even if it, Mom,
the guys
Mom, this is
wanted her
really
at all.
distracting. Mom,
They wanted her to go with them.
Mom, can you listen for a while? Because this is really distracting.
He's good at it.
No, Mom, it's almost impossible for me to carry on as I want to carry on when you're carrying on as you want to carry on. So can you just let me be the carry on one? Right. A boundary is like a wall setting up limitations. But the thing is, it's specifically saying I appeal to subjective justifications here. This is just a personal boundary. I'm not going to justify it. It doesn't have to make sense to you. It's just a personal boundary. Now, if I say, like, for example, okay, I've given you my $5. Now, can you please give me my hamburger? And the other person says, no, I don't give people hamburgers. That's my personal boundary. Well, that's not going to fly, right? So obviously, personal boundary means it's an area where subjective justification is adequate. For example, I'm saying you don't have to engage with me as an ally, but if you're in a close personal relationship with me and you don't, it's going to cause conflict between us, which I will try to resolve. And if I can't resolve it, depending on how important you are to me, I will continue to try to resolve it. And eventually, if you will not respect that specific personal boundary that I think is necessary for you to respect some of the time, in other words, if you don't act like I want you to at least some of the time on this one area, I will arbitrarily and subjectively, without good justification, remove you from my life. That is to say, I will not engage with you anymore. So that's that's what I'm saying. It's a personal boundary. I'm not claiming that the thing you're doing is necessarily a wrongdoing. So that's what makes it a personal boundary. I'm not saying because what you're doing is wrong, I'd have to react to it accordingly. Now, so for example, you can't stab me. That's just a personal boundary. No, that's not a personal boundary. That's a universal boundary. You can't stab me as a universal boundary. It is justifiable and can be justified.
Well, this is a different world than it was way back when you were younger. They didn't do this.
John Radux, that's insane. TI users are absolutely interested in working things out. I'm always interested in working things out. Because you got to remember, along with TI always comes FE. An extroverted feeling and TI combined mean specifically a desire to reach agreement and consensus. The problem is TI users don't want to compromise key elements that they think are critical, but at least TI-NE users recognize that we can use ideation and potentialities to generate outcomes in different words that accomplish slightly different things ideationally that will make people happy, So I can, like, for example, it's such a great example, so I keep coming back to it. The thing about the brewery where I said to Kimberly, you remember when you were annoyed at me at the brewery because I didn't answer your question? A perfect example is this: a TI-FE user who's fairly realized, either because of the TI or the FE, will say something like this if they want to talk to that person as an ally. They'll say, well, I wasn't actually annoyed, but I guess I was a little impatient. Regardless, go on. Let me see where, for the sake of argument, sure. Go on. Let me see where we're going with this. That's working with somebody as an ally. And that's being a TI user as well. And it's saying, okay, well, I'm going to contradict this, but I'm also going to work with you as an ally because I may not end up contradicting your conclusion. And I understand that just because a conclusion isn't deductively valid doesn't mean it's wrong. So being a smart TI user means necessarily incorporating that recognition of facts, which is a TI reality, into your TI calculus. The thing is, no, she didn't. I'm not excluding her from my life. I'm not preventing her from communicating with me. Jiva says Becky crossed my boundary. Becky didn't really cross any boundary. I was going to try to talk to her. She didn't respond like an ally. True. Okay, sure. She crossed that boundary. She didn't engage in dialectic with me at all. And as a consequence, I just proceeded without her. But the thing about that is, it's not relationship ending necessarily. At any point anybody comes to me and displays the ability and willingness and desire to use dialectic to analyze the situation, even when it doesn't really look good in their favor in the moment, is showing me that they respect my ability and alliance and allegiance enough that they can understand that what might not play well right now is part of a larger narrative, and that I have their interests in mind and that I have goodwill towards them and stuff. And then I'm not going to be highlighting facts to make them look bad just for the sake of that. Once I see that we're on the same page, if I have to do that because we're on the same page and I'm really working hard for them, fine. But I've not been putting any energy into Becky because I got my own issues over here. And I'm also very happy to that's knocked me off my narrative, Chris. Your story there. Becky did, yeah. Yeah, well, and that's the funny thing is we were talking about the various sashes, and I still want to make sashes before Susie leaves because she's still here for a couple more days. And the sashes we came up with, well, I wanted to say for Becky's sash, I wanted to be positive and say most eligible for redemption. But as a group, we settled on unsatisfactory.
What are you talking about?
No, wait, no, I'm sorry. Needs improvement.
You know her.
Yes, I do.
Needs improvement.
She has to be
And
pushed to the right place.
for Shane, I was thinking
She's
various
smart,
things
she's
like,
great.
Oh, I think she's fine.
I do too.
if you were going to say
And
the
she's
long
very
version would be something
nice.
like,
Yes.
and as the cherry on top, nobody blamed me for shit. It's like he's the big winner in this whole thing. I think he got.
Well, we'll see. You know.
I mean, I guess
haven't
it
gone
depends
through
how
it.
sticky he is to Becky. It's like,
That's the way it
or
always
how
was.
much fight Becky has in there against reality. You know, if Becky wants to go redeem herself, then he could still be sticky with her, and that wouldn't impact him negatively. You know, intransigent, then he's probably well served to cut ties with her because that's the bad sign. That's the ultimate red flag. It's one I ignored in my relationship early on, but regardless. So, well, Jeebus, look, this is the thing that people don't seem to quite get. And there's been a whole bunch of like pushback against me and stuff, and that's fine. But my whole point is I don't want to badmouth Becky. I'd like to see her redeem herself in my eyes. And my metric is she needs to engage in dialectic with me and own her shit and want to hear the truth and learn from it. And if she wants instead to play rhetoric with me and get adversarial, and thus far she has thrown out random fucking character assassination shit like I had a crush on her and that's why this whole thing blew up like it did or some bullshit like that. That shit pisses me off. It's like stop fucking making these ridiculous FE attacks when I'm saying some real shit, you know? But yeah, the point is, yes, TI people do want resolution. Yes, TI people are willing to talk things out to a good conclusion, and they have to want to do that too. So a lot of people who are maybe in an earlier stage of development haven't learned yet how important relationships are to them. If they do learn that relationships are important, then they're going to have to find some way to engage with the person that will allow the other person to feel respected, heard, etc. And for an FI polar person like myself, that way is going to be, dialectic. In other words, I'm going to use language like I normally do, but instead of adversarially, I'm going to use it cooperatively with you. That shows you I'm an ally, and I need you to do that for me too. And so that's basically what I've been trying to get through to Kim. But again, what I'd like to say is one of the words that made a big difference for me was the word sacrifice, which I read in one of these live streams, and I used it with her. And I think she understands that a lot more now. I'm asking her for a sacrifice. So that's cool. As a rule, most girls with blue hair are open for business. Jeebus, I'm not trying to trash Becky. I don't dislike Becky. I'm not angry at Becky. I don't want her to be, slut shamed in that fashion, Jeebus. She's not a penis garage. I think that's hilarious, but it's not appropriate to say.
And then they took things to the
Have you ever heard that expression before, Stacey?
What?
Have you ever heard the expression penis garage before?
No.
It's a pretty evocative term.
I've never heard of a penis garage, but it sounds like something that I would like to own.
No, you can't own a penis garage. You can just park in there briefly.
Okay.
The owner of the penis garage then decides whether they want you let you park there permanently or not.
So you said the owner of the penis garage, so it is something that I can own.
No, it doesn't mean you can own. It's something only a woman can own.
Okay, I see.
You think Jeebus might be single?
No, but I'm sure.
Hi, Winston's mom. Yeah.
Right into Porsche.
Penis garage is it's a much more meaningful term or tells more about things than cum dumpster, which is sort of like the more derogatory equivalent, right? Because penis garage just implies like, well, the garage owner lets you park your penis there for a while. And the big deal is, if you come home and you see like there's oil on the floor of the penis garage and it's not the kind of oil you use, or it's dirty oil and you just had yours changed and it's clean, well, then some people get really freaked out about that. Like I would be totally freaked out about that. So no, there's no double car garages either. There's no double penis garage in my book. Okay. So anyway, at least I'm not going to park in a double penis garage. Let's put it that way. So, that's the thing that people freak out about. It's like, just because the garage moves away from the car doesn't mean the garage should be free to let any old car park in there, right? Because when you get back home, you know, the guy wants to find his garage as he left it. He doesn't want to find other people's tools in there. He doesn't want to find, you know, a copy of the Wall Street Journal, then some cigarette butts of a brand he doesn't smoke up in his penis garage. Yeah, that's Spacey talking to my mom. Juliet and Micah. Are those your cats?
Wait.
Are those your cats, your dogs, your rats, or your hogs? Those are all three options.
When they see the humans.
And see, the thing is,
Meow.
the other thing that's relevant here about the
Come on.
narrative is I've
Maybe I can
needed.
grab you. We'll see. Meow.
It would just be way too roomy, Jeebus. It's just like nobody wants that much room in the garage.
Meow.
Oh, she doesn't. She's not particularly meaning receptive, let's say. Okay.
Visited, I shouldn't have, or David shouldn't have done that. He's the one.
No, I'm glad you visited, Mom. So the thing is this. Did you miss anything important? Yeah, you did. You missed the important announcement of Kimberly and I
Single thing.
finally, from what I can tell, having gotten to the breakthrough I've been pushing for a long ass fucking time, which is
So if I can get them.
she's negotiating with me. She negotiated with me yesterday and it worked. And then this morning, she negotiated with me again. I've always kind of,
got it out of that thing out
I don't know if I've ever really explicitly put it
And then
like
I
this
can
to
get
myself.
my own airport,
Mom,
and then I can go.
I don't think I've ever explicitly put it like this before, but I knew on some level that she needed to have the experience of dialectic working. And July 4th gave her that opportunity because she wanted to make sure July 4th went well. It was critically important to her. And I was still frustrated by not having what I called a legitimate channel of diplomacy, which is basically the problem, right? That's been the problem all along. I don't have a legitimate channel of diplomacy. And no matter what anybody else says, and no matter how they want to say it or how they want to interpret the shit or whatever, at the end of the day, in any good relationship, any healthy relationship, both parties must have a legitimate channel of diplomacy in order to illegitimize illegitimate channels of diplomacy. So it's never okay for me to scream. It's never okay for me to scream profanity at Kimberly. But the only reason it's never okay is if and because there's a legitimate way for me to talk to her. If I can't legitimately talk to her, that's inevitably going to happen. I'm going to take some sort of illegitimate way. And so,
Well, that's the part nobody likes.
But she was great, and we've been going.
but one of the best things about the whole
She
thing
did come in one time. She said, "By the way, get things
Is
in
that
your arm right now."
the story that I'm telling going forward is one
Is
of
it okay?
that empowers her and us and whatever.
And the
So,
kids
like,
were
one of the
just-
issues that we have is I don't like her talking shit about me to other people, which she does all the time. And she doesn't like me talking shit about her to other people, which I do all the time.
Kill me.
I have to, basically, because again, I'm not being afforded a legitimate channel of diplomacy. And additionally, this is something that predates her and just part of me. I have to talk about everything.
Then later, they were out there doing something. And they brought
Mom,
everyone's-
Mom,
the family or
Mom.
something.
can you listen for a little while, please? The chatter in the background is kind of driving me crazy.
And when, I said,
He needs you to relax.
I said, didn't you hear the things that there's going to be terrible things happen with
I mean,
those?
she's worked up a little bit, Eric.
Yeah, okay. All right. So
And it worked fine.
the point here, I guess,
And the rest
is
of
that
us,
going forward, I'm going to be telling the narrative
they were not happy.
of what it looks like
Why?
to
Why? Why can't
to
you
communicate
just
correctly
sit?
in a relationship.
Wait a second.
That it's not just this is not just a TI thing. Dialectic does require some FI, right? It requires that you care enough about the other person to
I mean,
not win everything, even if you can, to not always want to win, or not win everything you can, and it's not just win the important things either. To genuinely try to be fair, and that's an FI quality, because the only way you know if you're genuinely fair is to really put yourself in the other person's shoes and consider their interests and not your own. So there's definitely some FI ability that's required in order to communicate successfully with people. There's also TI correctness that's required. There's also some FE deftness that's required. And that's significant. I think the drama should be over shortly. I mean, I'll still be telling stories going forward of how this worked, how important it is for people to be able to negotiate with each other, and a lot of other narratives that necessarily going to follow from it. But I genuinely am very, very hopeful because it's happened now. It happened one day, now it's happening again today. And it's because of the fact that it worked yesterday. And she agreed to two critical things that I've been pushing for forever. Number one, well, the first one I haven't been pushing for because I didn't have an example of it, was that negotiation did work yesterday. She agreed to that right away. No fucking pushback at all on it. And then the second one, I got a little pushback, but she did agree to it at some point and saw me immediately calm right down. That the reason we've been having this ongoing communication problem is I've been afforded no legitimate channel of diplomacy. And so once she agreed to these things, and everything else follows naturally. It's easy. It's easy squeezy. Because we want to have a channel of diplomacy, obviously. And she sees that it works when she engages in dialectic, that it actually works.
How are you getting those ace guys over here?
Okay. So
You're not
I am going to end this live stream because I just the chatter by mom in the background just is driving me crazy. I can't get into the flow of things properly because it's just constantly an annoyance. So rather than get mad at mom, I think I will end the live stream and thank everybody for being here. And I regret that it's not longer than that, but so such is life. Ciao.
Eventually they'll get better.
Don't forget to eat plenty of queso, fromage, and cheese.
They all come down too.